You gave her everything and still stood outside, like a wolf left howling into a night that won't answer. You thought loyalty was armor, the steel that had cut through her noise, but it was just weight dragging you deeper into silence. You sacrificed pride like a candle burning low, hoping the flicker would reach her eyes, hoping the quiet would turn into something real, a crack in the armor you never got to see. But loyalty didn't build a bridge. It pushed you further into the shadows where your value is just a ghost. You were taught to believe that devotion was currency, the key to unlocking the door she held closed, only to realize the key never belonged to you. That pain, being close but never close enough, is a storm that doesn't pass. It's the bitter truth that loyalty isn't the path to being chosen. It's the prison that holds you captive when the person you gave your heart to wants something you'll never be told. You weren't betrayed by her. You were betrayed by the lie you carried, that your allegiance would somehow light the way to her soul. But some nights, the silence speaks louder than your sacrifices, and the man you are inside is left echoing where no one listens. This is the raw weight you walk with, the understanding that giving all isn't a guarantee you'll be the one standing in the light. It's the moment you see clearly. Loyalty is no promise. It's the road you take alone. You wore your heart like armor, thinking honesty would build walls they couldn't tear down. But what they saw wasn't strength. It was an opening. You laid your soul bare, waiting for respect in return, only to feel yourself fading into the background, swallowed whole by silence. Why does loyalty make us invisible? You stayed when everyone else walked away. You listened when words spun out of control. You cared beyond the surface, hoping that consistency would crown you with dignity, but instead, it turned you into a ghost nobody recognized. Every act of devotion chipped away pieces of your presence, until all that remained was a hollow shell, unworthy of notice or regard. Was it your loyalty that diminished you, or the weight of expectations you were never supposed to meet? You gave what you thought was a gift, a steady hand, a firm word, an open heart, but it became a silent anthem of neglect, a quiet echo no one dared answer. The respect you sought wasn't earned, it was owed, yet somehow it slipped through your fingers like smoke, leaving behind a familiar ache that bruised more than your pride. You found yourself locked in a cycle, endlessly proving your worth to those ready to deny it, over and over, each rejection a strike against your soul. You asked yourself when the world turned loyalty into a leash, a cage where your integrity became a noose, strangling your own voice. You showed up raw and unfiltered, only to watch the reflection of a man who sacrificed everything become a shadow on the wall. To love openly is to walk a battlefield without armor. The wounds don't show, but they cut deep, steel sinking in silence, unseen and unacknowledged. The world wants you open but safe, vulnerable but not too much, a wolf howling just enough to be heard, but never strong enough to be feared. But that's the trap. The line between availability and surrender, between visibility and invisibility, is razor thin. You found yourself not respected for your strength, but questioned for your softness. You weren't less because you felt. You were less because they refused to see. And that truth, that savage truth, that loyalty can be your undoing, that giving everything might leave you with nothing, there's a weight to carry. So carry it like steel, like the bitter fire of a man who knows pain but refuses to become it. Loyalty isn't weakness. It's a test forged in storm and silence. You passed it, or you will, but only through discipline, through quiet resilience, through the resolve to stand unmoved when the world tries to wash you away. You aren't invisible. You've been standing in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to step into the fire and claim your place, not as a victim, but as a warrior who walked through hell and never raised his voice. Pain isn't punishment. It's the forge where your real strength is made. You aren't a broken man because your heart cracked under pressure. You're a storm-tested oak whose roots dug deeper with every gust that tried to tear you down. Those cracks? They're not failures. They're the hard-earned lines of fortitude carved into your soul, proof you faced the wind and refused to fall. I want you to think about a brother I once knew. He was tired of chasing approval like a dog chasing its tail, desperate for every nod, every word of praise handed down like a lifeline. One day, he just stopped. He stopped running after every fleeting validation, every soft promise of belonging, and instead locked eyes on the only thing he could truly master: himself. He became a man who didn't hand over the keys to his peace as a gift to those who mistook kindness for weakness. That's a different order of power, the kind that doesn't scream, doesn't flinch, and doesn't crumble beneath the cold gaze of indifference. He learned what the Stoics knew all along: no one else shapes your story except you. You bend, but you don't break. You weather the storm and come out standing tall, your silence speaking louder than the noise of their doubt. Redirect that worn-out energy you've poured into chasing respect from the wrong people. Build a quiet fortress inside that's untouched by their apathy. The oak doesn't rely on the wind to hold it up. It knows its roots run deep into solid earth, anchoring it against every storm. The power to rewrite your narrative isn't out there on the open road or in someone else's approval. It's inside, waiting for your hands to find it and hold tight. This is where clarity lives, beyond the distractions, beyond the expectation and the hurt. You own your peace. You master the silence where others lose themselves. And in that stillness, you become unbreakable. You can walk through any fire and come out forged, stronger, sharper, and more certain than ever. The cracks in your heart aren't damage. They're proof you learned to stand when everything wanted you to fall. You do not break. You do not bow. You do not beg for belonging. You are the storm-tested oak standing silent and unshaken. You have to learn that detachment isn't giving up. It's taking control. Walking away isn't surrender. It's reclaiming your freedom from the chaos that tries to chain you. When you let go, you're not dead inside. You're alive with choice. It's a steel blade forged in cold distance, cutting loose everything that asks for your worth but drains your spirit. This is the path of the man who won't suffer in silence but refuses to bleed for what doesn't serve his future. Detachment is your liberation, because it teaches you to bleed less and move faster. Emotional control isn't some weak lock you place on your feelings. It's the fortress behind which your clarity stands tall. You don't shut down. You don't numb out like a coward hiding from the storm. You master your reactions like a warrior trained to weather hurricanes without breaking. Each feeling runs like a river, and you decide when to let it flood the plains or stay confined to its bed. The calm of your mind becomes a razor's edge, slicing through distractions, nonsense, and noise. When your emotions no longer wield you, every step forward is deliberate, every decision a brick in the fortress of self-mastery. You become a man who doesn't flinch under pressure because you've built the muscle to hold steady when the world screams. Your mission. This is not a mere goal scribbled in a notebook or a fleeting ambition. It's the iron compass hammered into your chest, beating with the rhythm of purpose. The world will try to drown you in static, pull you toward the quicksand of distraction, but you stand anchored. Mission first. Not because you don't feel, but because your values are the unyielding North Star that guides through blinding fog and dead ends. This commitment isn't flexible. It isn't swayed by temptation or distraction. It is your singular reason to wake, to grind, to endure, even when the echoes of failure threaten to suffocate every breath. This is how you build a legacy worthy of your silence. Integrity forms the bedrock beneath every step you take. This isn't a list of rules you read once and forget. It's the code that speaks before you do. The kind of respect men give you when they see that you stand square in your truth, unshaken and unbending. Your word is your bond, and your actions write history in the minds of those who watch. Honor is not a convenience. It is the unbreakable spine you carry through the fire. Without this, the mission is nothing but noise. With it, you become the standard against which others measure themselves. And remember, partnerships are not battles to be won, but alliances forged in respect and vision. You don't waste your strength grappling with demands you can't meet. You move with men and women who recognize the empire you've built, who see the fortress you command and seek to lay stones beside you, not tear at your walls. Sovereignty means guarding your kingdom's gate with iron will and wisdom, letting only those in who carry the same fire, those who add weight to your legacy rather than pull you into the mud. Together you rise, but never at the cost of the steel beneath your feet. You walked through hell and never raised your voice. You choose what has power over you. You are not the man who clings. You are the storm that moves on. You don't stand here looking for someone to tell you you're enough. That chapter is closed, burned down in the quiet fire where only you remained standing. The man you were, full of doubt and fractured hopes, fades into echoes you can barely hear now. What pulses instead is the steady drumbeat of a truth forged through silence and discipline, carved deep into muscle and soul. You've become the architect of every choice, the master of every step, mapping a road that no one else walks and no one else will follow because it's yours. The storms tried to break you, the nights tried to steal your voice, but you didn't flinch. You learned that strength isn't in noise or protest. It's in calm command, in standing unshaken while the world rages. You know who you are because you built yourself from broken pieces, not as a man who needs approval, but as a warrior who commands from within. In solitude, you found the loudest voice you'll ever hear, that steady rhythm of a man who knows his own weight and doesn't move without purpose. There's no more chasing shadows or fighting ghosts. You lead now with a quiet that's louder than any roar, with a presence that settles like steel in the bones of those who watch. You rise as the storm, unshaken and unyielding, not because you crave victory, but because you carry a calm that nothing can steal. You've cleared the noise, stripped away the lies, and now you stand in the full clarity of who you were always meant to be. This is more than survival. This is mastery. I lead in silence.